Kansas. January 15, 1974, a family of 7 starts their morning. The parents are getting ready for work. 2 of the children stay home because they are sick. The house is quiet. Ordinary. Safe. By noon, 4 of them are dead. There was no forced entry. No argument. No motive anyone could see. Just a family gone, inside a house that looked completely normal from the outside. And the man responsible walks away. Calmly. And goes home. His neighbors will wave to him later that evening. The Otero family. Joseph, his wife Julie, 11-year-old Josephine, and 9-year-old Joey. Investigators would describe what was found inside that house as organized. Deliberate. Planned. The victims had been bound, killed, and left. Nothing stolen. No rage visible in the scene. Just methodical violence, executed without hesitation. Police had nothing. No suspects, no motive, no witnesses. Just questions with no answers. Then, in October of that same year, a letter arrived at a local newspaper. Inside was a detailed account of the murders. Details that had never been made public. Details that only one person could have known. At the bottom of the letter, the writer had given himself a name. B.T.K. Torture. Killed. He wasn't hiding. He wanted the city to know he existed. He wanted them to feel it. And they did. Over the next 17 years, BTK struck again. And again. April 1974. Catherine Bright was killed inside her home. Her brother Kevin was attacked but survived. He would later describe a man who seemed calm, methodical, unhurried. March 1977. Shirley Vian was found dead inside her home. Her 3 young children had been locked in a closet before she was killed. December 1977. Nancy Fox. Killed in her bedroom. After it was over, BTK picked up her phone and called police himself. He gave the address. He hung up. Then more. Over the years. 10 victims in total. And with each one, the same absence of explanation. No pattern investigators could trace to a specific person. The city of Wichita lived with that knowledge for decades. The fear of a name they couldn't put a face to. And BTK seemed to enjoy that. He sent more letters. Poems. Drawings. Communications taunting investigators. Correcting news reports he found inaccurate. Complaining when the coverage wasn't what he wanted. He wasn't afraid. He was comfortable. And now we know why. Because while all of this was happening, he was also living an entirely different life, a life that no one around him ever questioned. His name was Dennis Rader. He lived in Park City, a quiet suburb just outside Wichita. A white house on a residential street. A lawn he kept trimmed. A car in the driveway. He had a wife. 2 children. A family that, by every visible measure, seemed completely normal. He attended Christ Lutheran Church every Sunday. Not just as a member. As president of the congregation, a position of trust, of leadership, of responsibility. He worked for the city of Wichita as a compliance officer. His job was to enforce local codes. He wore a badge. He knocked on doors. People called him when they needed help. He was a Cub Scout leader. He worked with children. He organized community activities. He checked in on his neighbors. People described him as strict, but dedicated. Reliable. The kind of man who took his responsibilities seriously. Nobody said they had seen anything unusual. Nobody said they had felt uncomfortable around him. Because he had never given them a reason to. And that is what makes this case so difficult to sit with. We tell ourselves that people like this stand out somehow. That something feels off. That instinct warns us. But Dennis Rader's neighbors had no warning. His colleagues had no warning. The people who sat beside him in church every Sunday, the people who trusted him with their children, none of them knew. For 31 years, he moved through that community without suspicion. And no one noticed. Between 1991 and 2004, BTK went silent. No murders. No letters. Nothing. Investigators weren't sure if he had died. If he had moved. If he had simply stopped. The case stayed open. But without new information, there was nowhere to go. Then, in March 2004, a letter arrived. Inside was a photograph. A copy of a victim's belongings. A detailed description of a 1986 murder that had never been officially connected to BTK. He was back. Over the next 11 months, he sent more than a dozen communications. Letters. Packages. Items belonging to victims. He seemed to be testing something, seeing how close he could get without being caught. And then he made one mistake, sent a question, hidden in a cereal box mailed to a local news station. Could a floppy disk be traced? Investigators went on television and said no, he believed them. On February 16, 2005, a purple floppy disk arrived at a local news station. Inside was a single document. The metadata showed it had last been saved at Christ Lutheran Church in Wichita. The registered user, Dennis. Investigators ran the name. They found Dennis Rader. They obtained a court order for a partial DNA sample through his daughter's records at a state university health clinic. The sample matched evidence collected from crime scenes more than 30 years earlier. On February 25, 2005, police pulled Dennis Rader over near his home, was arrested without resistance. After 31 years, BTK had an address. A family. A church. He was the man who had been there the whole time. When the arrest was announced, Wichita went silent. Because this wasn't the profile anyone had imagined. This wasn't a drifter. This wasn't someone who had slipped in from somewhere else. This was a neighbor, a colleague, a church leader. People who had known Dennis Rader for years came forward with the same reaction. They hadn't suspected anything. In June 2005, Dennis Rader stood in a Wichita courtroom and pleaded guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder. He described each killing methodically, in detail, without visible emotion. The families of his victims sat and listened. He was sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences. His wife divorced him after the arrest. His children, who had no knowledge of what their father had done, were left to carry a name they had not chosen. For the families of his victims, finally knowing who did it didn't bring peace. It just made 31 years feel even longer. What stayed with investigators after Dennis Rader's arrest wasn't the evidence. It wasn't the confession, was the simplest question of all. How does a man kill 10 people over 17 years, and never once seem like anything other than a neighbor? There's no easy answer. There rarely is in cases like this. The people who knew him weren't careless. They weren't naive. They simply had no reason to look. And that, maybe, is the most disturbing part of this entire story. Before you go, I want to hear your thoughts. What part of this case stays with you? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy true crime documentaries like this, make sure to subscribe to the Dark Casebook. There are more stories like this one waiting for you.